Right folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join us in the beautiful landscape of Scotland. For today's adventure we're in Glen Esk and we're joined by Highlander 87, and today we've come to actually document the abandoned remains of an ancient forgotten castle which lies at the other side of the river here, which is, I believe, the River North Esk that flows down this glen. We have actually come to this area before and had a swim in the river and stuff on previous videos, and like this castle actually lies further over here and we didn't even know at the time. Here, it must be roughly over there where we can see that far hill. But yeah, I just feel the rain coming through. As I hit record for this intro, I could feel the rain. That's how I had to give the lens a wee wipe there. And it is just about sunset. But the castle we're coming to document is called Shano, and it's an old castle. We believe it must have been around the 1700s. Apparently it was a displaced laird, a local laird. He must have gotten put off his land or whatever, and he actually came and built a castle in this location. And that's what we've come to see today, folks. It's literally an abandoned castle way out on the hill here, and it's actually the opposite direction as to where we are walking, but we're kind of sticking to the track at the moment, and I'll update you once we're further along the hill. But yeah, it's Shanno Castle, folks, so let's get into action. Check it out, folks, we've crossed the river here, and the first thing we're dealing with is actually livestock here. We always come with the greatest respect to like farmers and livestock owners and stuff, and that's how we're hoping just to cut along past these cows, make our way through this land. We'll have to watch because cows can be boisterous. Oh, there's so many of them. But we go up that way and along. Let's do it. Go up here. Or what do you think? Go down past them and along the top of the river. That's what we'll do. Because that way we'll be going through the trees. We will be close to them, but it's more like going around the edge instead of being in the middle of them. I think that's a safer option. See, the cows is proper chill, and we're often in the countryside dealing with livestock, but you always have to come with respect of the animals and stuff. So we'll take this path which leads around the side, and I'll update you once we're further along. Check it out, folks, the cows are right there just chilling. We were walking with our arms out because I was saying if you're a big object, the cows are less likely to chase you down. Cows hate small things and small people, and they often charge them and try and attack them. Whoa, watch out there, that's quite a soggy bit. This is incredible, folks. The land up here at Glen Esk used to actually be owned by the Malls family, and that's the same people that owned the land from the last few videos down at Panmure Estate. So it's cool on this week's videos to feature historical details like that and explore areas. You can see the sort of lands that people owned back in the day, the Malls family. But then they owned it like long after this castle was in its prime. This castle would have been a ruin before the Malls bought this land, I would think. Because this is an older castle we're about to see today. But yeah, we're gassed out. We've just come up that slope. There's the cows eating down at their trough. And now we just need to punch along this track, probably for about a mile, I reckon. Look at this, folks, we've got some Scottish cows here. I just recorded as I walked past them, and then I realised the camera hadn't started recording. But look, you can see the little cafe up there, grazing the lands. Mission update, folks. We're trying to beat sunset here on tonight's video, and we're actually approaching the first thing. We should be overlooking the castle from this location. I think I can see it. It's so windy up here on this hilltop, and just look at this view. We didn't even realise the hill was going to be so steep on the way up here. I think a lot of these stones here are stones that's been gathered from the fields and then piled up at this spot. The castle's actually straight in front of us, over the top of this ridge. Yes, this is epic, folks. Real history of Scotland in such a wild, remote place. And this is one of Glen Esk's castles. It's almost forgotten. It was actually a viewer of the channel that told us about this castle last year on the way into Angus show. So shout out to that viewer. You know who you are. But yeah, I'll update you once I catch my breath, folks. This is amazing. Look at this, folks. This super windy spot here will be stones piled up that was cleared off the field. All these fields here. And I think the laird that built this castle up on the far hill, he actually had like a little village or a settlement down in this area with a bit of a farm and a croft, and maybe the stones was cleared around that time. So that's a cool thing. Yeah, we're nearly there. We can see the outlines of it, folks. And what a view, looking up Glen Esk onto the far hills, all the way around to these hills that we had never seen before. Sometimes wee piles of stones like that, it turns out to be an old like tumulus or Bronze Age burial mound, but I think with that one it's more just like a pile of stones. Anyway, I'll update you once we're over at the castle. So look at this, folks, there's a strange plant growing up here on top of the hill. I'm not sure what it's been, but we're kind of going through a maze of this stuff on the way over, and the walls we can see in front of us are like the main croft walls, I think, or little house walls. And then as Highlander pointed out on his map a minute ago, he was telling me the castle looks like it's up near that tree, and I think right enough we can actually see the stone remains a wee bit further up. So this is such a crazy bit of history out here in this wild land. And look how many walls is over here. This must be like the little village or some of the buildings the farm workers stayed in. Apparently this was a full-on settlement for a period of time. So that's cool to imagine. This is some ancient 1700s settlement, folks, from a displaced laird who built a castle here. And it's another story of a Scottish castle, Shanno Castle in the lands of Glen Esk. And to come here and document it on the channel, it's a special thing. We've beaten sunset, so it's amazing. We can still see things like this view behind us leading out all the way to the North Sea, which is incredible. The land underfoot is unusual here because your feet just sink into the soft mud. Wow, there's so many buildings here. This is amazing. It's like stepping back in time. It's a post-apocalyptic scene of Scotland from the 1700s. And sometimes these places in these remote glens were literally the front line of the battles. Sometimes folk would be living peacefully for maybe a year, and then the army would march in and trouble would start, basically. Back then you wouldn't have known who was away to march into your town. And I've just cut across this little field. Think what people may have walked in and out this field gate. Look at these wee buildings and houses. Imagine the crack back in the day with the people maybe in here. That's like a horse and cart shed almost. And a little house. Yeah, these are all like little houses and stuff with a little field. Look at that view behind us, folks. We're on top of the glen here, looking all the way around. It's such a beautiful view. And then it's got all these wee buildings on the outside edge. It's going to be incredible to punch on up to the actual castle, which was a genuine castle, like a defensive position. And he was basically protecting the people of this village, or this was his crew. Wow, this has been a madness, folks. I'm wanting to actually go up. I think I'll take a more detailed maybe look at this on the way down if I have time, because I want to go up and have a look at the castle before it gets to a certain level of darkness. Yeah, all these, look, they're all buildings. This has been like a real deal little town almost, but it would have been fully farm related. They would have probably grown all their crops and stuff to support the community built around the castle and the folk at that time. And each person probably had skills that they brought to the table. Some of them would have been builders with the stonework, others joiners. There was probably a lot of woodwork and stuff back in those days. And even like cart builders and the people like that. And then the blacksmiths and such like folk in the villages. Look at this big natural stone within the complex here. And these are like other little outer fields like we saw at the far side of here, with all the buildings in the middle. And look how much stonework there is. It's just incredible to explore. Wow, there's no easy route actually through here. That's the crazy thing with these hilltop wildernesses, folks. It's sometimes like untamed boglands. And this looks like it could be a similar deal to that. I'm thinking maybe just somehow try and get to there. Here, I'll test it because I'm in my wellies. This is a real deal part of the adventure right here, folks. It looks like a bogland. See here, it looks like there's been a track.
I'm going to try and get there's a gate there.
Yeah. I just thought it looked so boggy here. See the thing, it's totally solid under my feet here. So that's a good route. So I'm not sure how boggy it is there in the lowest point. It's fine, hen. At least if one person's got wellies, they can test the terrain. So that's a bonus. And look, we'll go past these other walls on the way up to the castle, which is cool. There's so much wall lines. And some of this could even be built as well at that time. Parts of constructions. So many hundreds of years has passed, it's often hard to see. It looks like these stones have been constructed. Oh look, this is a lime kiln. Check this out, folks, the first detail of the history. They probably used this lime kiln to build the castle and to build all these houses, to get the mortar. But also they used the lime to spread on the fields, obviously to change the acid-alkali mix of the soil to get better yield. Just check it out, the shape of this one. And that's another piece of the history overlooking this village. Imagine the smoke churning out of the chimney of this thing. Anyway, there's no good way out of this. Everything's still a wee bit overgrown after the summer conditions. So I don't know if you can tell on the video, it's actually getting darker for us. And that's why I'm going at quite a brisk pace up towards the castle. Look at all these buildings here. I thought from the map it was more livestock buildings. But look, you can see the wee sheds and stuff. And then the different enclosures. And then there's another enclosure further up here. Look at the old door entranceway. Wow. They maybe had that wall as a bit of a windbreak, because you can imagine the extreme weather places like this put up with. Hundreds of year old history this is today, folks. And it's just beautiful. Such a wild hilltop. This is actually the same day me and Highlander recorded all the Panmure Estate videos, so that's literally how far we've been kicking about today. Loads of adventures. Look at this. It's almost been dug out. Could be a separate thing though, eh? So look at this. This is the higher up enclosure here. It's a lot more like far gone, but the walls is quite wide at the lower bit. Yeah, there's actually a proper track right past this place. And this is the castle at the far side, folks. It's so exciting being able to document another castle on the channel. And what a crazy view, look at it all the way around. These adventures are just so cool. And it's amazing to think the genuine old history that went on in these places. The folk that were kicking about. Maybe the conversations that were had at the ancient times about invasion and such like, which would have been a big thing. Yeah, it's interesting. It's been a small castle, I think, on the scale of Scottish castles. Yes, here we are, folks, up to the edge of Shanno Castle. The forgotten Glen Esk Castle, and we were reckoning it must have been a big tower. Oh, there's a plaque or whatever next to that tree. Maybe the tree's been planted as a remembrance to somebody. Yeah, look at the edge of this building. This is the actual castle wall. Let's have a look. Just think how long ago these stones were put in. It's such a crazy story to have that. A displaced laird. I wonder if that's the genuine truth or if it's a story. It isn't really that castle-like, but see some of the really, really old castles in Scotland, folks. They were only just a tower. Yeah, that's true. Invermark Castle further up Glen Esk, it's just a tower as well. Originally built as a hunting lodge. But maybe around that time people was building things here and stuff kind of out of the way. You would have seen it from all around thinking like, who's that just put a castle up at the top of the hill? It is amazing. Look, here's been an internal wall. Maybe a door and then a wee room. See, another thing I think with these places, they literally would have been used after, kind of like maybe early 1800s and stuff. It might not have been a castle anymore, but surely there was like decent buildings here for a wee while, and folk probably used them for different things. Maybe not to stay in, but maybe as like a farm shed or storage for animals or grazing. Look how thick these outer walls are, and they are actually properly made. It's not like he's just built himself a house. He must have had some following of men, maybe soldiers from that period of time. Wow, I love to see castles, folks, and some of the castles I go to are pretty much complete, and then castles like this, they're like really far gone, but they're still here on the hill and on my channel to tell the story of the history. At one time, these places were often, like I said earlier, at the front line of the battlefield, and sometimes they got destroyed. Look how amazing the outer wall is at this section. There's some white quartz stone being used as well, and that naturally occurs in Scotland. Look at the wall here, you can actually get an essence of it here, how perfect it was originally.
Yeah.
And like, so much of the stone must have been taken, maybe for newer projects. And maybe once the castle was destroyed, the farm and the croft was still just kept and maintained. That's just amazing, folks. Yeah, there's just so much in this whole area of that village, or the settlement, and the farm history. I'll get a good view of it standing here. To stand here in the castle, imagine the boy looking out the window over his little bit of land here. He would have maybe seen invading forces and such like approaching up the glen. Wow, it's just so cool. And the view over here, I can see the river North Esk at the bottom of the hill, and then these beautiful hills in the far distance. And over the years, we've documented so much history in Glen Esk to actually discover about this castle and finally make it here. Because we've been speaking about this since like last summer, and it's super cool to finally get here. Sometimes in the summer it's so overgrown, all those ferns that are brown now, they would have been green and waist high. So it's only now we're getting a chance to come that wee bit further, and that's how the videos are just popping off. Incredible location after incredible location, folks, because that's what we're all about on the channel. Each place has got a wee historical story to tell. Sometimes a little glen, sometimes just that little like piece of stone there was actually part of something so massive and incredible. It's like there's been a door or a gate here into the site potentially. So I wonder if the original road was around this side. Yeah, it's like there is a lot of stonework here, but you have to think under our feet there must be so much of the castle walls. And I was just having another wee look over here, just thinking about like where there would be other little buildings related to it. It almost looks like a cave up there, but I think it's a trick of the light. And then you can see Highlanders on the far wall of what was potentially the castle tower. And that shows you it wasn't the biggest, but then some castles weren't super big. Yeah, it was a strategical little position on the land. And kind of warfare was so different back then. The sort of threat they were expecting, a castle with a defence like that would have been ample for the invading force probably. And they must have had big gates. Do you think there was gates down here? Let's head on over and have a look at where there could have been gates. I think on that end of the wall. But then it's too hard to know, because years have passed, like hundreds of years. See here, it's like there's been bigger pillars, and then this would have been the entrance, and then you would have maybe rolled in. Imagine the horse coming up here with the lanterns on, if they had such a thing. And then they would pull in about the foggy night, the castle standing in front of us. And it's another madness being able to tell this tale of a Scottish castle hidden in a glen. And it's a glen that is pretty cool for history. There's a lot of wee nuggets that's interesting to see, a lot of stone constructions, and even in the times when the malls owned this, they built a lot of things, interesting buildings and towers. Yeah, there's a serious amount of stone here. And it is interesting, it's like this could have been just thrown on at a different time. I don't know, do you think all this was made as an enclosure just using the stone that had fallen down from the castle? It is hard to know when you're looking at a thing like this, because the quality of the construction of that main walls, kind compared to this looks more like it would have been for sheep, rather than like actually standing up to artillery or whatever it was. Look, this part of the wall here is so excellently kept. And that'll be how fine the original construction was. It's just magic. Let's take a wee look, folks. I'm not actually seeing a place there would have been a fire here. Do you think this whole rectangle here would have been the fireplace? And the chimney would have been up there? That could have been like a big great hall almost. Because I was thinking, where would the chimney be? And that is a big rectangle. So there you go, folks, that's my theory. It would have had maybe potentially a big chimney at this side, and we would be standing on the back wall behind the fire right here, because that's where they would have done a lot of things probably. Look at that there as well, it's just so cool to see the stonework. Do you think they've chiselled a bit off of there? Let's have a look, folks. Some of these stones are massive nuggets, and they must have been gathered from all over the hill. I'm not sure what they had back then for like blasting the stones apart, or maybe cracking them. Yeah, look folks, this stone here looks like it could have potentially had like a bit chipped out of it or broken out of it, but it's so hard to say because there's just like an infinite amount of stone shapes almost on one of these hills. They probably did, just smash bits off. I ken the Romans used to do that. They would drill a hole and then put chap wood in, and then I'm not sure, I think they soaked the wood or whatever and it expanded and it cracked the stone. Anyway folks, let's head over. We better keep the action going and we need to keep moving. So there's the incredible castle remains, but you might be able to tell it's actually getting darker and we need to navigate out here past these cows and stuff like that. It's annoying because the clip that I was recording, I went past the cows folks, I was literally speaking to them, saying hello and then the camera didn't record it, but we need to go right back past all those cows to get out of here, so that's why we're keeping it moving when it's daylight. And just look at this, we're once again coming down from the castle behind us, down into the edge of this village. And just imagine it when it was in its prime. It's almost like travelling back in time, and it's like a scene from like Lord of the Rings or whatever. When they go to the village with the hobbits and things. You can just imagine it folks, it's just crazy. It's just amazing to see how much stones and stuff were always constructed into these buildings, and it lets you know how much work was done gathering the stones. But then if you think about it, it was the whole community. Imagine like you had just like a town and all you and your mates just built your own little house and you all had a job that supported the local little town and community. That's how much more of like an individual community thing it was back at that ancient time. And then these little crofts would have probably done business with other little crofts and settlements over the land. Yeah, the proper track comes round the hill and down. There is actually other ruins in this glen we'll have to come back to, but tonight, because we're racing against sunset, we're just going to head around. I was going to take another look potentially at that building before we head out of here. Ken the building in the main farm? Yeah, that's the edge of that wee like enclosure. I wonder if that's been designed to break the wind, so it didn't hit the shed doors. Super interesting folks, look how the old track's built up as well. It is like time travelling sometimes when you imagine it in its original condition. And there is a lot of big stones lying around on the hill. Like there's a lot of natural stones in this hill as well as the ones that's constructed. It's the realest of adventures though here folks. Look how these stones have been put over the top of the waterway like an old bridge. That's all part of the original croft architecture here. Somebody was asking recently in the comments like what's the difference between a croft and a farm, and it's actually to do with the size and the acreage. A farm would be 100 acres or more, and if you had a croft it would probably only be about 50 acres or 70 acres or whatever. And then a farm would be a bigger construction folks, I can't even say the word. Look at this unusual big area of stones here. We didn't look at this on the way in. I don't know if this is stones that's just been dumped off the field or... Yeah, that's really interesting because there's just so many. Maybe this is where they came to get the stones when they were building their thing. Maybe one person was out collecting them and dumping them and then the builders would come down and grab it. That's the old lime kiln there as well. See, a lot of those details, they're not actually on the old map that I looked at. But it does say Castle Ruins on the old 1800s map. Yeah, I think if we go on this bit here, we should be okay. See, it's solid here even though it sounds squelchy. I'll tell you if it's too bad here. Sugar. I was away to swear there. Here, it's okay here though. Just walk on the blades of grass like this. And it's actually dry. Yes, we've done it. We've done it, folks. That's what me and Highlander promise you here, folks. We'll go through the boglands and the grasslands so you don't have to. Bringing you the coolest places from Scottish history, and often the places that's forgotten and almost lost. Look at this ancient wall. We never saw this on the way in. This was the building that we kind of hurried past, and that's how I thought we'll just throw it on the camera as we come down. Imagine the people maybe sitting there on a chair, smoke in the pipe. Imagine the smell of stovies maybe coming out the farmhouse windy. Maybe the sound of some music, if somebody's sitting in there playing the ukulele. Or what would they have had back then? The bagpipes. Look at these wee doorways, it's so cool thinking of the individual buildings and rooms. Look, that one's still got the wee hinge. That's a cool detail, folks. We really can't hang about though, because I can tell it's getting darker. We've got about a 45-minute walk potentially, so yeah, look, I'm going to look in this room, and then that's me. This is the last room that I hadn't looked in, because I hurried past here on the way up, and now we're hurrying on the way down. But sometimes a site like this is so big, it's like so much to see. I was sure there was a wooden beam here as well, but I think that's more recent. Maybe an old animal trap or whatever's been over there. Yeah, it's just been another building at this corner. There's no sign of a fireplace or that. And look, there's like a stone. I think there's been a ridge here along like a bit of a pavement, and then the edge of this has been their farmyard. And then there's been so many buildings and things. Look at this, the size of these stones. It's like they've incorporated that into their construction. Anyway, we really need to punch on. I can actually see grey skies. And look, you probably can't even see it on the video now, the castle up on the hill. The landscape in Scotland can be so mad. Sometimes you just need to keep your wits about you, stay focused, because you can get caught in a mad storm. Like right now, I'm getting the feeling like we need to punch down the hill. Look at all the autumn colours over the valley. I hope that comes out on the video. It looks more daylight over there. And then look at this, the old wall line. Maybe this is the track that would have come down out of the farm. Maybe down the side of that wall. Look at these interesting stones here as well, folks. I'll run over here, part of the video here. Look, these have almost been laid as well. This has maybe been like the park for the youngsters to play. They maybe used to come and hang out at this bit. Because you have to think, the youngsters back at that time were kicking about. Like, what did they do for fun? Like, they maybe had a wee hangout area like that. So we could say goodbye to the secret forgotten castle of Glen Esk, folks. And it's just such a mad adventure on our way back. We're actually punching over the hilltop here, past the pile of stones, and I'm just loving this view in front of us. Now it's starting to get dark, you can see the twinkling lights of the tunes. And it's just amazing. What were you saying there, Highlander? Aye, the wind's picking up, but on the way in, this area here was super windy and extreme. And that's the kind of environments we thrive in, folks. We absolutely love it. History like that, and then try to pick a wee route in, trying to record the history and then get out before sunset. We do actually have torches, even if it got dark. We wouldn't be stuck out here. We're properly prepared, folks, as always, but you know how it is, it's a bit of fun if it does get dark. Hey, we've just been at that mad castle. Imagine that, there's probably ghosts. You'll just turn around and see the old laird waving from the castle foundation. Mission update, folks. We can actually see the moon has come out from behind that cloud now, and it's getting really dark. This is actually a mad field of pretty much bull thistles the whole way over here for about half a mile, I would say. But yeah, it's been a decent bit we've been able to walk, and once we're at this gate, that's where we're back onto the track. And I think this is the first area we might encounter the cows, but they seem pretty chilled out cows. This has been such a fun adventure to finally come and see that castle and to get the wee adventure completed. Sometimes it's not always about the location itself, but the way you have to get there through the thick and thin of the landscape. And yeah, because we've been on so much today, you can only squeeze in so many adventures in the winter in Scotland because it gets dark so early. It gets dark just now about 5 o'clock, and by next weekend it'll be even earlier. So we've squeezed in all 3 of this week's adventures that you've seen on this channel, folks. Me and Highlander's been out today having a madness, and it's been really cool. And yeah, look, there's a big phone mast here in the land. At one time they used to build castles and incredible structures, now the phone mast. But it is handy because it means we can whip out our phone and get like the map if we're lost, for instance, which is a good piece of modern technology. Check it out, it's getting super dark, folks. We've just come down from that track at the side of this old eerie looking shed. It's like something for a horror film. And then there's actually a cool old stone bridge down here as well. I didn't record that on the way in, I didn't think. So yeah, look at this stone bridge on the way out. If it is dark, I'll actually lighten up the footage a bit in the editor so you could still see it. It's probably more dark for me in Highlander than what you can tell from watching the video. The GoPro's actually pretty good in low light conditions from previous videos I've recorded. We've had some madnesses in the glens, man. Mind I got bitten by the dog at Glen Esk. Yeah. We've been in this glen before, folks, going through a farm in the dark after a mad adventure, and we couldn't even see where we were going. And this is similar vibes tonight, because it's every like 10 minutes it's going down an octave in light, and we're just like, it's getting harder to see the detail of the path in front of us. And look, here's the wee stone bridge that I spoke of over the little burn. What a scene of Scotland today. It's a muddy scene, and yeah, this bridge would have been built for the agricultural. Look, there's actually an electric fence wire leading along the side of the bridge. Anyway folks, I'll update you once we're further down the path. We're basically just following this. I'll probably put the camera on if we're getting chased through the cows or whatever. Right now folks, it's super dark and we're literally going through where the cows are. But me and Highlander were like holding our arms up so we looked big. Look, there's a wee cafe there. Oh, those pigeons. That was a pheasant sitting in the tree and pigeons. See the thing, we try and keep the livestock really calm. I just saw an animal running there, like a badger or something. I'm not even sure what it was. Yeah, when we're trying to keep the livestock calm, and we're trying to keep quiet, sometimes those birds can actually scare the cows. See that right above my head? Look how many pheasants are in the trees. Did you know that they roost in the trees? All those pheasants, folks. We're trying to be low key and the things are just giving away the game. Yeah, the cows are just chilling out though. For this clip, I've actually enhanced the brightness, folks, because it's really dark now for me in Highlander. We can now see the river, and we need to make our way, the most risky part, past the cow feeder that we came in. And I'm just going to keep it rolling, because that's what these adventures are about, folks. It's sometimes just the fun of situations like this. Here, are those cows closer to the edge now or no? I think we're okay. Whoa. It's a steep slope here, but hopefully if the cows chased us we could make some sort of manoeuvre here and avoid getting hit. I've just walked right in a cow pat right there. This area is so dark. Yeah, the cow feeder is literally right there. This bit of the video will be so dark, and it'll be interesting to see in the editor how bright it gets. I'll be trying to brighten this up, which lowers the quality of the video a bit, but yeah, the cows are right there, folks. I'm not sure if you can even see it. We're still making our way past these cows here, folks. There was a little cafe took interest when Highlander was going along, and it walked over, but we've made it past the main hub of that area, and I think we've managed to dodge the cows. We're literally right on the edge of this cliff. It's like a 50-foot drop down to the river. Right folks, we are just about back to the path that we started this video on. We can see the moon up there through the cloudy sky. And yeah, we've managed to navigate through the land past the livestock, and in this dark conditions for this outro, it's super cool. It's been a real deal like winter adventure almost, seeing things we had never seen, a castle which is pretty much off the maps and forgotten. We've managed to locate it, so I'll end this one here. Goodbye from me, goodbye from Highlander 87, and we'll catch you soon for the next one, wherever we end up going.